So let's talk about those asinine accusations that we are seeing thrown around by the president, his administration, and Mitch McConnell. We're seeing accusations being thrown over to Nancy Pelosi or about Nancy Pelosi. And then we see accusations coming from Nancy Pelosi being hurled right back over to the Trump administration and Mitch McConnell. So as I opened this episode today, I want to reiterate because it is very, very clear that there is no new COVID-19 relief deal coming before the elections. Okay, this should be very, very clear to you. I know that some of you are just naturally more optimistic than others. Some people are more pessimistic, and I wouldn't consider myself a pessimist. So I'm not telling you to not have hope because I'm some, negative Nancy. But I mean, in the words of the president, it is what it is, despite what Nancy Pelosi is telling you about the fact that, oh, any minute now, or it's not happening before the election. I called it weeks ago that there's really no incentive. There has been no incentive for a while for either Republicans or Democrats at this point to really go ahead and give us that stimulus package. Now, it's not what most people want to hear, but I would say that it also does speak to the fact that you need to be more politically active than just voting if you have done so already, or planning to vote on the 3rd. You really need to pay attention because I've mentioned before many, many times, and I will express it again. One of the things that politicians count on when it comes to them doing stupid stuff like we are seeing in this very moment, where they are outright refusing to help the American people, whether it be given the interests of their donors or their own political interests because they're not necessarily up for re-election right now, what they count on is they count on you having voter amnesia. Okay. The politicians who are not up for re-election, they count on you only caring about this issue until November 3rd. And then once it's over, you not really paying attention. Then the ones who were up for re-election in this current cycle, they, have counted on you being able to essentially fall for misinformation or kind of fall for illusions. Perception is reality in life in general, but especially in politics. This is why we have seen time and time again bills that both sides, Republicans and Democrats, knew were never going to be approved by the other side. This is why we saw them time and time again put those bills up for vote, not because they expected them to be passed, but because they wanted to be able to come back to you and say, well, see, I tried, hoping that you would be ill-informed and unaware as to what was really going on. This is why I encourage you very, very strongly, even if you can't stand politics, even if it's not really your thing, for the sake of our country, even more so for a very personal and selfish reason, which we all have, and you should never feel ashamed about, mind you. I've mentioned that before. But when you look at your own financial situation, when you look at your own personal life, when you look at your children, your family, all of that, you, my friend, need to stay informed, whether it's informed by listening to me or listening to other people, reading other things. I would advise you to have kind of a varied kind of collective of outlets that you pay attention to, because it's never good, even as much as I love the fact that you're listening to me. No, don't just listen to me. Listen to a lot of people, listen to a lot of things, and kind of come to your own conclusions. But the thing is, you need to listen, you need to be in the know, you need to read, you need to watch, so you can make informed decisions, because politicians are counting on you not being able to make informed decisions and you just kind of falling for the okey doke. Okay. And it's that has been the norm for voters. That has been what typically happens. And so what would be the best deal in this situation is if the record voting that we're seeing at this point translates into a record number of people now starting to actually pay attention to what's going on. not just with politics, but with various aspects in people's lives. The reality is, most people really don't start to pay attention to issues until it starts to personally affect them. And I have stated before that, this issue of COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief really touches Americans on many, 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 many levels. And you should not feel ashamed for, if you haven't really paid attention to politics in the past and now you're paying attention because this is really heavily impacting you, whether it's on the economic level, which most likely it is, or it's a mix of the economic as well as the health level. Don't feel ashamed that you are now paying attention. Don't let people tell you that, oh, you're selfish. Politics is selfish. People, I mean, by very nature, we are selfish. We are from a biological perspective, what are we trying to do? We are trying to replicate and pass our gene pool on, right? That's selfish when you look at it. So don't ever feel bad for it, because I can guarantee you, the very people who were telling you that you are selfish for wanting to see something that works in your favor, something that helps you pay your bills, something that helps put food on your table, the very people who look down on you and talk about you for that, those are the very people who are doing the very same things for themselves. So don't feel bad about it. But let's get back to these asinine accusations. Both parties, both parties. And again, I'm saying parties, and I'm not specifically talking Democrats and Republicans. I'm really talking about three parties that make up two groups, okay? Group A, you have Nancy Pelosi all by her lonesome. Then group B, you have the Trump administration, or who you could just think of as President Trump, coupled, with Mitch McConnell. So you have these two parties. They are essentially both looking at each other, pointing the finger, saying, look, it is their fault that we have not come to a compromise. They have blocked compromise from happening. We would have received compromise. Trump and McConnell are saying, see, if it weren't for Nancy Pelosi doing X, Y, and Z, we would be at point Z. Pelosi's looking back at Trump and McConnell and saying, if it weren't for Trump and McConnell, we would be at point Z, and we would have had a stimulus a long, long time ago. Okay. Both of these parties, though, are saying not only is it the other side's fault, but they are saying explicitly that the other party has stopped us from getting anything before the election. And this is what I really want to focus on in this moment. Not just the fact that they are blaming each other, but the fact that they are blaming each other and saying that it's not happening in a specific time frame, that it hasn't happened before the election. Let me tell you something. Okay? Both parties knew exactly that we would end up in this situation. Both parties knew. Both parties were banking on you buying into what they are trying to sell you. Because quite frankly, depending on what you believe, depending on what your perception of both of the parties, depending on what your experience has been with both of the parties, you are going to believe one of the two narratives that are being thrown at you. I do not believe that there is not an American who does not believe one of these two things. And that is either that it is Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump's fault, and they didn't want to do this because of some nefarious reason, or they believe that it was Nancy Pelosi's fault and she didn't want to do this for some nefarious reason. But you cannot tell me that there is a single American. I'll take that, but the only American who would not really fall into either of those two groups is an American who does not have any doggone clue about what is going on. Okay, so let's look at why they would be arguing that, why they would actually want this. Nancy Pelosi, she would, and I'm not saying this is the case, but I'm just saying that this is how the parties that believe this could kind of justify this, right? Nancy Pelosi she would not want to have anything be passed because this would keep Donald Trump from having a win. That is what the people who think that Nancy is the bad actor believe. On the other side, Donald Trump and the Republicans don't want to do anything because they don't want to spend any money. That is what people who fall into that camp believe. Before I proceed, I want to tell you something. I am an information junkie, and I, get information from various sources. Some of those sources come from like online YouTubers. And not just with YouTubers, but just even with your mainstream media. I really want you, and I've mentioned this before, that's like my phrase, right? I've mentioned this before. Pay attention to the linguistics when people communicate an idea, okay? Because I literally have had to unsubscribe from some YouTubers because it became very, very clear, given the language they were using, that they were framing their attempt to kind of appear to be unbiased they were framing it in a way that was not as unbiased as they were claiming. Okay. And I'm not saying, the reason that I want you to kind of keep that in mind is because I fully disclose at the beginning of our podcast that we are a political organization. I'm not here as some unbiased news organization. No, we actually work on politics. Just giving you news is not what we actually do. That's not the focus of what we do. We run political ads, okay? And so you can expect, the whole reason I say that is not just because I like saying we're a political organization, but it's because I want you to come into our space understanding what you're getting. What you're getting is you're getting an organization that has a bias. No, we are not affiliated with Democrats. No, we're not affiliated with Republicans. But on certain issues, we are going to fall in line with one party over another. And we're not going to attempt this whole kind of, well, both parties are right. Because the reality is, 99% of the time, one party is wrong and one party is right. And it's not always consistent, but when you listen to, for instance, these YouTubers and you go onto their channels and they tell you, oh, I'm just doing the news and, whatever, sign up for, he's always trying to give you life insurance or something. I don't know, whatever the man's trying to do. But he's in real estate. And so you can give it, just kind of given his kind of profile and kind of considering his socioeconomic status, it does make sense that he would fall more in line kind of with one ideology over another. That totally makes sense. But here's the deal. The problem I have is that they say to you that they are not biased. And I appreciate honesty. And I think that the American people would so much more appreciate information and the people relaying that information if people were just honest. And if they said, yo, look, this is what I believe on this issue. I believe that Trump and the Republicans are utterly right and it's all Nancy's fault. Or, yo, look, I believe that Nancy's right and it's all Trump and the Republicans. If people are honest about it, then people kind of go into it knowing what they're getting. And it's not just that I'm on this moral high horse saying, oh, everyone must be honest, but yes, there's the moral aspect of it, but then there's also the fact that this is why we have so many ill-informed voters. Yes, there is the element of personal responsibility where people should for themselves verify the information that they are hearing, and yes, they should take it upon themselves to kind of determine what is fact, what is fiction, but at the same time, there is also a responsibility with people communicating information. Because, again, if you kind of go on a higher level and you ask yourself, who is this and who is this person actually giving me this information? What is their backup? What is their socioeconomic status? What is their, what is kind of their background? Not saying that alone is 100% of the time going to give you some sort of framework for the person that you're dealing with and their most likely ideology. But even though it's not like 100%, I can guarantee you like 75-80% of the equation can clearly be brought out just by understanding who the person is that's giving you that information. So it should not surprise. Like, I got into the comments with somebody and we were kind of going back and forth, and well, not really going back and forth, but it was like literally two exchanges. But, and I was like the bias is showing. Like, please don't kid people and tell people that you're not biased. And here's the thing, there is nothing wrong with being biased. This is bias has become, yes, there is a context in which bias is absolutely detrimental. But I would go so far as to say that the bias itself is not what is negative, because bias most often comes along either by experience that you've had or lack thereof, or well, that's kind of the main context. But the problem isn't so much that you have maybe this idea of, oh, good, oh, bad, oh, this, oh, that. The problem is how you utilize the information you have. Take, for instance, someone who just is